Help me welcome a very special guest today, Dr. Edie Wadsworth. Edie is a wife. She is the mom of nine and the grandmom of three. She's also an author and a physician. She is a life coach and she has a beautiful life coaching program. She has impacted so many lives, including my own and of course her own family, and outward from there so many. I'm just delighted to have her today with us. Thank you for coming, Edie.
Hi, thank you for having me, Stephanie. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful our paths crossed. We actually were together this summer and you had this idea, and I'm like, that sounds so much fun. And here we are. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, me too. I'm just delighted. So, if you would give us a little bit better summary than I just gave, tell us a little bit more about you and your story, and just kind of what all God's been doing in your life.
Yeah, well, like you said, I'm a former family doctor and I had had a really difficult childhood. And I think that when I look back, like one of the reasons that I was so drawn to medicine is I was kind of an overachiever. And it's like I was trying to overcome things in my past or whatever by being really successful and checking all the boxes. And I realized after I practiced medicine for a few years that, you know, success doesn't is not really the answer to the aches that we have in our heart. And then I had a lot more grief and loss. We ended up losing our house to a house fire. Just so many things that really brought me to my knees and helped me to realize that, God has a plan. And I think all of the things that happen to us are drawing us closer to him. And I finally learned that. And I think I'm learning still to build my life on presence and joy and calling and connection with him and the people that
Mhm.
matter to me. And yeah, so as I came through some really hard things, quit my medical practice to homeschool. So we have that in common. I homeschooled
Yeah.
my girls for a long time.
Yeah.
And as I kind of fell into the internet world and started writing, I ended up writing a book. I ended up finding life coaching. And it's crazy because, my former life of being a physician, people understand and they respect. And then when
Yeah.
I became a life coach, it's like, what? But I'm telling you, the tools that I've learned, the coaching program that I've built to help other women brings me so much life. I love what I do. I really help women rewrite their stories and step
Yes.
into their favorite version of themselves. I feel like
Yes.
learning to live as our true selves is harder than you would think it should be. And that's really what I help women do. And I love that. I also, a few years back, when I first started my coaching program, Life Mentoring School, actually, the very week that I started the program, we got a call to take in a little boy that had a relationship with him, but his mom had passed away, and so we have had the amazing, unique privilege to be his parents and call him our own. And that journey has been amazing over the last few years. I always imagined that I would be an adoptive mom, but I just never imagined all of the adventure and amazingness it would bring me. So I feel like everything I teach now, identity, emotional maturity, feminine leadership.
Yeah.
Really, for me, those were never just things that I read about in a book. Those were like lifelines. And I
Yeah.
feel like what has emerged from that is just this message that, my podcast is called House of Joy. It's kind of this message that
Yeah.
joy is always available to us. And sometimes, most of the time, there are a lot of things we have to let go of and clear away to experience
Mhm.
his joy and presence. And yeah, it's been such a fun ride to be in this world. And that's how you and I met. And I'm so thankful for that.
Me too. I agree completely. Very grateful for you and the impact that you've had. One of the things when I hear your story, and she does have a book, by the way, we will link that in the show notes. She has a beautiful book, but how beautiful when God redeems your story, the impact your story has on other people around you.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I believe always shines through when I am hearing
Yes.
you or, just in our conversations, etc. And it's been true in my life as well. When God has redeemed my story, it's allowed me to it's had a ripple effect in my life too. And I
Yes.
love how much your coaching ministry has impacted so many people, but not just the people in your program, but outward from there, which is, I mean, you
Mm.
probably would not be able to even fully count the number of people that I've had an impact. And that's just an amazing testimony. So,
Mm, thank you so much.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
true.
like you said, I think for all of us, when we're willing to confront our own demons, do
Yeah,
our own work,
right.
step into our true identity, learn these skills of emotional maturity and how to have a powerful mindset, yeah, it has an impact there. But I was just thinking about this because I just had my grandbabies at my house for the weekend.
Mm,
And I am telling you, I'm so thankful for this work that I've done. It's liberated so much energy in my own life. And I feel like the time, the presence that I can devote to them, the time, the energy that I have, like to me, that's what really matters, being able to really show up
mm,
powerfully for those sweet little babies and
yeah,
the people that are closest to me. I'm so grateful for the
yeah,
tools that I've learned that have really helped me show up in a way that I
yeah,
want to.
yeah. So true. I agree with you. And, I believe, as you said, like our past experiences, the thing God allows us to go through when we're able to use those in a way that is helpful and beneficial, obviously applying godly wisdom to it, and it helps us to grow into who He wants us to be, who He designed us to be all along, our
Yes.
identity in Him, and then how that pours out into our life, into other people, into relationships. But I will say, I believe that when you've said yes and you've done this work, it has helped others do the same thing. And,
Yes.
I know you also haven't stopped saying yes. You're still saying yes.
I'm still, it's like C.S. Lewis. He has this quote where he says he feels like he got pulled into the kingdom of God kicking and screaming. Sometimes my yeses come like that, where I'm
Yeah.
like, ah, I'm wrestling with one right now. I know I'm supposed to write my next book. I've submitted the
Uh,
proposal. And yeah, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I know how hard this is going to be.
mhm. Yeah.
I know I'm called to do it, but
Yes.
I feel resistance to do it. And isn't that all of us, you know?
Yes, yes, that resistance, but often the resistance is actually the way.
Yes.
It's really that path forward. We just have to be willing to lean into it. And maybe this just opens right into the next question I had for you, and that is to ask you, what is the thing that you are passionate right now about that you feel like you're saying yes to, or maybe you're working on saying yes to in your life today?
Yeah, so this book has been all consuming for me for the past, I mean, I've been thinking about it for a long time. What I'm really trying to do is write out my program. Like,
Mm,
I want to make it really accessible for people. And it would
mm,
be obviously very different than being in my program and having a coach and being in our encounter groups and meeting all of our people.
right.
It'd be different than that, but so I've been working on it a lot and thinking about it a lot. So I'm really passionate about that. It's funny because as soon as you said that, I'm like, well, I'm really passionate about those grandbabies.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
I am a supplement junkie. So before we started recording, you and I were talking about my latest supplement routines. I need to do a whole podcast on it because I have, just have gone through menopause and found a new regimen that's really, really helping me. So I'm kind of obsessed with that right now. I got my colors done this year and I'm
Oh,
obsessed with it. Have you had it done?
I have not. No,
Okay,
no.
Stephanie, you
I
got
need
to
to.
go get it done.
I need
So,
to.
I mean, I already was kind of a person who dressed kind of colorfully,
Mhm. Yeah.
If people happen to watch any clips of this, I'm wearing a bright yellow shirt.
Yeah.
Well, bright yellow, this yellow is in my color palette.
Hmm.
And it's not that I wasn't wearing those colors, it's just that I had a lot of colors that I wasn't wearing. And I am telling you, it has given me so much life to kind of step
No.
into the colors that really match well with my skin. And like back in the 80s, I had it done and I don't know, like a spring or a summer. I can't even remember. And this is kind of different, but kind of the same.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. I had it done with my team. We all had it done together. And so it's been such a fun topic of conversation. So
Yeah.
I'm weirdly passionate about that as well.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's beautiful, and it also does kind of help you step into more of your true identity a little bit, like in an outward way, because
Yes,
it's how you're built and designed.
it's crazy
Yes.
how because even after I did the colors and I've always kind of been into fashion, yeah, I started realizing like how powerful it is, like all of those things to help you step into
Hmm.
your true self. And for me, that's like quirky and joyful. And I love to laugh and I love to have fun. And so, like, the ways that I'm dressing and the things that I'm wearing and the colors that I'm wearing, do they reflect that,
Yes.
you know,
Mhm.
those parts of
Mhm.
my personality? So yeah,
Mhm.
it's been really, really fun. I've enjoyed that. It makes shopping so much easier. Like I've got my little color swatches and I can go
Mhm.
into a store or shop online and I can immediately eliminate like 90% of the things. Like that's not my color, that's not my color, that's not my
Wow.
color. And it's not
Mhm.
that you can't wear your, you know, colors that aren't your color. It's just that you'd notice the difference when you put something on that's like clearly in your color
Right.
palette. So
Oh, for sure.
it's been fun.
Well, yes, it is fun, and I love it. It's just like an outward, kind of demonstration of what you're going through, maybe a little bit inward. And I'm putting words there for you. Maybe that's
Yeah. No, no,
true,
no.
but
So
it
true.
seems, yeah. But I do want to tap into one of the things that you said because this is a very important part of my life as well, and that is stepping into your true identity. And you have done
Yes.
so much work and taught so much about that. Can you share a little bit more about that with us?
Yes. I, this didn't come to me probably, I don't know, until I had had my program for a couple of years. And I realized that so often, I think one of the things that really helped me do this is when I wrote my book, because
Ah,
before that, I was always living trying to put forth a version of myself that I thought people wanted. And I
mm,
was trying to hide the things that I
right.
felt like, well, I don't want people to know I've been through that. I don't want people to know I grew
Yes.
up poor. I don't want people, you know, like it's
Mhm.
not consciously even trying to hide it, but trying to put forth a version of myself that I thought would get acceptance or love or whatever. And after I wrote my book, what I realized is that every single person I met who had read my book, it was like instant connection.
Mhm.
Usually people would say, like, if I would be speaking somewhere at a church or something, people would come up to me and instantly go, I had exactly the same experience as a child. We would like instantly
Mhm.
connect. There was no
Mhm.
pretense, there was no pretending, there was
Yes,
no ego. It's just like
exactly.
two souls
Yes,
connecting with
yes.
their true selves, with their flaws, with their things they're
Mhm.
wrestling with. And that for me was so eye opening because I'm like, it's so disarming when you
Mhm.
can just be who you really are. And so when I created my coaching program, I was coming up with things that I thought would help us do that mindset and emotional work. But I was never really leaning into what is it really like to live as your
Mhm.
true self? What does that mean? So
Mhm.
I dug into the scriptures and different books and, you know, just borrowed from psychology and scripture and just came up with a way to think about it, true self, false self. And there's true self emotions and false self emotions. And although we're created to experience all of the emotions,
Yes,
some of us are living most of our lives in emotions that don't resonate well in our bodies. They don't create health, they don't create enjoyment of your
Mhm.
life, you know?
Yes, yes,
And so then I just began to teach that to my women, and I noticed dramatic
yeah,
results and transformation when women learned how to live as their true selves. And the thing that that often requires is one person to go first and say,
yeah,
I'm willing to do it. And there's a certain, you know it when you see it. There's a
yes,
certain energy and because energy carries vibration and it has a
yeah,
certain feel about it. You
mhm,
can tell when someone is being their true self.
yeah,
And as I created my program and we would have live events and we would all come together, you would see a bunch of women just encouraging each other and living as their true self and
mhm,
not afraid to share their vulnerabilities and
yes,
willing to say the hard things and willing to admit when there's something in their own life, in their own mindset, in their own emotional patterns that needed work.
yes,
And so as I saw how quickly women transformed when they learned how to do this, it kind of basically became the cornerstone of my program. That's really what I help women do is
yes,
step into their true identity that God made them. And what it does is it makes you more of who you are instead of all of us trying to be all like somebody else.
right, yes,
No, how can we be more of who we are? And
mhm,
so it's funny because just an example of how that comes out. Like when I was redoing part of my house last year, I was like, oh, I want to make one of my rooms in my house feel like a little speakeasy or a honky tonk because I grew up going to honky tonks with my dad and I love country
Mhm.
music. And I wanted a big picture of Johnny Cash, and all my kids are musical. So I wanted all the musical instruments. And everybody thought I was crazy. Like, you're going to make a honky tonk room in your house? And I'm like, yep. And after Thanksgiving, we're going to go down and we're going to dance with the babies and we're going to play country music and my kids are going to. So I just had this vision, even though it, like, everybody else can think that's a crazy thing to do,
Mhm.
but that felt so like me, and it brings me home to myself and it helps me live as my true self. So yeah, I don't expect that everybody after their Thanksgiving wants to go down and two step and, do line dancing, but I do.
Uh-huh.
And my grandbabies know, like, oh, when we're with Grammy, she's going to play some honky tonk music and we're going to dance. And that's just a small example of how maybe at some point I would have hidden that a little bit, or like not leaned into the things that make me who I truly am. And I think the more we all do that, the more we realize how amazing and unique it is that God made us, and how we all have different passions and gifts and quirks and hobbies, and just being able to lean into that. I think there's so much freedom in that. And especially in midlife, like, we all get to this point where we're like, I'm tired of trying to pretend to be someone that I'm not.
Right,
So,
exactly.
yeah,
Or
that
people that
teaching has been powerful.
it is, and I agree. I mean, I've experienced that right as you've shared it and seen it evidence in your groups when we get together and your events and everything. It's so true. And what you just touched on too about freedom, it is a freedom. It is stepping into that freedom that God calls us to, because when
Yeah.
He sets us free, we are free indeed. And I believe
Yes.
that is to step into who He designed us to be. Definitely
Yes.
not to cower away from that. You know,
Right.
he wants us to be that, or he wouldn't have designed us the way he did. He has intentionally designed us to be who we're supposed to be. And then also added to that, I believe, to do the work he gives us to do.
Yes, exactly. And we can shy away from that. I mean, we all know
Absolutely.
what it's like to, you feel that nudging, you feel
Mhm.
that call. I've been
Yes.
feeling this for a couple of years, and I just know this is what I'm supposed to do, but it's sometimes hard to step into that. It requires you to be in your discomfort zone. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I think, even for me, when I stepped into life coaching, I knew, like, okay, people are going to think this is weird. People are going to go,
Mhm.
you're actually a medical doctor. What are you doing something where there's not even official licensing? Like,
Mhm.
and I just boldly stepped into it because it had changed my life so much. I'm like, I don't care what people think. I'm going to share what I'm learning. I'm going to share my journey. And there's so much joy and freedom in doing that. And one person doing it gives permission for other people to do it.
Exactly. And that's what you've done. You've really set that tone for so many of us because we were talking before how I've been doing, a lot of what I do with my one-on-one clients, and I have a very small group coaching program
Yeah.
that I don't really market it a lot. And
Yeah.
it's because the very thing you're saying is like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this, but yet stepping into that more and more, day by day and realizing that is what I'm supposed to do. And I need to continue, to boldly step forward with that. And
Boldly.
people
Yes.
don't know what you might have to offer or a way to help them if you don't ever share it. And so it's been really encouraging to see what you've done with that and definitely leading the way for the rest of us. So I appreciate it. Um,
Oh,
Now, I was going to also ask you the thing about identity that I think is difficult in the world we live in right now is
yeah.
it seems like the enemy has been having a heyday attacking identity.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I believe this work that we're doing is so important. And maybe that's
Yes.
partly why it's become a cornerstone for you with your program because it really does feel like very holy work, to say the least.
Yeah, and created at the first of this year a new program for my master coach students, all on divine feminine leadership. And it
Mhm.
was kind of like true self, but on steroids. What does it look
Mhm.
like, not just to be a person in the world, but to be a woman of faith who's called to leadership? Like, what does that look like? What are the qualities? What are the ways that God has gifted us uniquely? And man, that work was just so life changing for me to dig into that, to really
Mhm.
dig into Proverbs 31. Because I don't know, I always felt like maybe. the version of that I had heard just wasn't as robust as it could be. Like, I see
Mhm.
how amazing and powerful women are in their own lives, and how we change families and we change communities, and when we're living as our true self and living in our calling, like, watch out. We
Yes.
know how to create connection and community and collaboration with each other. And I just felt like I hadn't ever been exposed to something that
Mhm.
really illuminated that in a powerful way. And yeah, it does feel timely. It feels like, yeah, it
Mhm.
feels like for such a time as this, when
Yeah.
it can be such a confusing time for, people coming up.
Well, I just trust that God is doing the exact work in you, in your program, exactly in the timing,
Yeah,
exactly as you said, for such a time as this. And it'll get to those ears who need to hear it, and it will
that's
encourage them
right.
right where they are, exactly meeting them where they are. So I know an important topic that you've shared, I think more so this year, because I've been with you from almost the very beginning, pretty close to the beginning of your program. And
Okay.
I just have seen a shift towards the idea of leaving a legacy of love. I think
Yep.
it's been there, but it's kind of been coming more to the forefront in a lot of the
Yeah.
things I've heard you share. So would you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah. So Stevie and I have, like, a his, mine, and ours. We've been together 25 years, but he had kids, I had kids. We have kids together, and then we adopted Tom. So we have this big, crazy family. And from the beginning, we knew that to create a lot of connection for all of us, we wanted to create experiences for our kids. So the first year that we were married, Emmy was born in September, and we took all of our kids. She was 3 months old, to New York City for Christmas, and we
Wow.
literally had no money. So
Mhm.
we've been doing this since we got together,
Yeah.
really prioritizing experiences. And what it has done over the years is created this beautiful, amazing connectedness with all of our kids.
Mhm.
And we're going again this year to Big Sky to go snow skiing. We do something every year. We usually have a couple things, maybe a staycation, maybe a trip. But we've been doing this before we could ever afford it. And instead of, like, if we have a good year, instead of putting that extra money in our 401k, we just say, no, we're going to take our family. We're
Mhm.
spending that 401k now on connection and experiences with our kids. We tell them all the time, we're not leaving you anything. We're going with you now.
Mhm.
But we've kind of always been like that. And as I was doing my diving into the divine feminine leadership and thinking about, really, I was thinking a lot about, because you hear a lot of people talk about patriarchy, in a bad way. And I'm like, no, I want to study matriarchy because I want, instead of me deciding what men should all be doing, no,
Yeah,
what am I called to do
exactly.
in
Yes.
my family? And how
Hmm.
am I called to lead and create connection with
Hmm.
my kids and between the kids and with my grandbabies? And I just realized that we have this focus sometimes on leaving our kids something,
Hmm.
and I want to live it with them
Yeah,
now.
I
I don't,
agree.
they're not going to need my whatever money that I can save when by the time because listen, I'm going to live until I'm 95. So they're going to be 70. They're not going to need anything from me. But
Right.
the legacy that I can live right now, that legacy of love that I can live with them and creating experiences with them and prioritizing them. We spent this whole year basically traveling to see our kids and to do things with our kids.
Hmm.
And I just want that so much more than things, or trying to save a bunch of money to leave them something later. I want to live it now with them, and not just, and it's not the things necessarily that money can buy. It's the presence. It's the
Yeah,
emotional generosity. When
that's
I
right.
have done my work, it's the
Mm.
emotional generosity that I can leave them. It's the legacy of love. It's the time that I spend. It's the presence. It's making them realize that they're the most important thing. And it's sort of that generational, because I came from not a legacy of that.
Yeah.
And I'm just committed to healing those generational wounds and making it different for me and my kids. And I know that they feel that. They know how much
Mhm.
we love them. We want to spend time with them. But we've also learned that sometimes the best way to do that is for Stevie and I to prioritize each other. So the legacy that we're living together in our own marriage and prioritizing
Mhm.
time together. And, our kids say all the time, like, you two are so funny. We've gotten into hobbies together in the last few years that we never had before and just having fun.
Mhm.
So yeah, I like to think about living a legacy more than leaving one. And
Mhm.
love is always the center of that.
Yeah.
And we talk about unconditional love, but then we're always putting conditions on it.
Mhm.
And especially as women, I think in our stage of life, because I know I'm at the stage, and you're probably at the stage where sometimes my kids are going here for a holiday. Sometimes, and
Mhm.
we can get so tied into what our kids should be doing to make us
Mhm.
happy. And I
Yeah.
think learning to create your own life the way you want it and being thankful for, I'm just always thankful for any amount of time or whatever that I get with them.
Mhm.
And those kind of things, like the work that I'm doing, the inner work that I'm doing is legacy work
Mhm. That's
because
right.
it's making an impact. They see that, oh, mom's not so needy for me. She's not micromanaging
Mhm.
my life because she's got her own life.
Mhm.
She's
That's right.
having great fun with dad. But then when we're together, that I just think that it's a much healthier way to live. And so the investment that I've made in my own self to get myself coached, in all the resources that I've given myself to get myself healthy again,
Mhm.
to me, that's living a legacy too.
Yeah.
So I think of it as living it, not leaving it.
Yes, I love it. I love it, and I definitely agree with so much of that. And over here, doing the same, attempting,
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
that same thing. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
daily walk sometimes, or but or season by season. But definitely, that's my goal as well. And
Yeah.
I do, work very much on knowing that my children and grandchildren and those around me in my circle, they know I
Yeah.
love them, and I'm leaving that legacy of love. And that's what I hope they always will remember, no matter what I might give them, or the
Yeah.
tangible things that don't really last. They don't really matter.
Yeah, and I mean, I will mention this because I do feel like, because I have a program where I train coaches, and you're doing an amazing work. A lot of the coaches that have come through our program are doing amazing work, and I feel like that's also a way that God is, multiplying the
Sure.
work that we're doing. We can share that with other people. And then who knows the ripple effect that
Mhm.
that has on families and generations. And so just stepping up to say yes to the thing that you feel called to do is such an impactful way to multiply the gifts you've been given.
That's right. That is so true. Stepping into all of it. Here for
Yep.
all of it, for sure.
Yep.
Um, okay, so one of the things, I feel like our people listening here, our listeners might be curious is they're hearing all this wonderful stuff and some of the fruit and how you got to this place. So if they are in a season in their life where they just really don't know where to start, like
Yeah.
what would you tell them to start with? And they may not even be in a season, Edie, where they're able to join any program right now. But like if they could
Yeah.
just do some work on their own at home, what would you tell them?
Yeah. I think the thing that probably changed everything for me more than anything else was realizing that my thoughts, the things that I focus on and think about every day, are creating my reality. They
Hmm.
are creating my life. And when I started to take a look at those, I was thinking things like, my best days are behind me. Maybe I'm never going to get healthy again. I
Hmm.
always feel tired. I just can remember 10 years ago, before I did all these things, I can remember feeling like maybe it's just my personality that I'm just anxious and depressed.
Hmm.
And the thoughts that I was thinking were creating more of the same. And that's when I got introduced to life coaching and to cognitive behavioral therapy that teaches that your thoughts create your emotions, create your actions, and
Yes.
all of that create your reality. And I started really deciding on purpose, what do I want to believe about myself and about my life and about the
Mhm.
gifts I've been given and about my marriage and about my kids? And I started living way more intentionally. I started noticing a lot of those negative thoughts and asking myself, okay, whether or not, like, one of the first things that I worked on, this could be really powerful for people, because one of the things that I was struggling with is my past. And even when I
Mhm.
learned this coaching tool, I was like, yeah, well, you can't just think different thoughts about your past because your
Right.
past actually happened.
Mhm.
And then I learned the most magical thing. Of course, you can think different thoughts
Of
about your
course you
past.
can. That's right.
So I started rewriting my past.
Mhm.
And I started looking in my past instead of for the things that had been harmful, instead of for where I had been abandoned or rejected. I started looking in my past for all of the treasures, for all of the people who did support me, for all
Mhm.
of the ways that my life was incredible, for all of the people who loved me, for all of the synchronicities and opportunities that I was given. And what I found after I went treasure hunting in my past is that
Yeah.
you can, in fact, rewrite your past. And you
Mm.
can't go back and change the things that happened, but you can tell yourself a different story about it.
That's
Or
right.
at the very least, you can stop telling yourself the story that's making you depressed and
Mhm.
anxious and inflamed.
Right.
And as I started doing that, it felt like a miracle to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even feel the same way about my past that I used to. Now I see it as such a gift. I see all the ways God was orchestrating things for me. I see all the times He rescued me. I see all the coaches He sent me. I see the teachers that invested in me. And I started to just really rewrite my past.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, if you can do this, for your past. You can do this for anything. And I
Mhm.
started working on my relationship with money because I'd grown up poor and I had a really scarce mindset around money. So I started working on that. And then I worked on my health. And I just took like one kind of smaller thing at a
Right.
time. And I don't know, over, I would say, a couple of years, I felt like I wasn't even the same person. I wasn't even
Mhm.
living the same life.
Yeah.
And now, 10 years after that, literally my life feels like a miracle to me. And it's not because I don't sometimes have hard things and challenges and problems.
Mhm.
These tools are not going to be an off ramp to being a human. You're still going to be a human with
That's right.
hard things and hard emotions. But now I have tools and
Mhm.
skills that help me decide, okay, so I've had this challenging thing. Do I want that to define me for the next year? Or
Mm-mm.
do I want to get my brain in problem solving mode to figure this out? And literally, those kinds of things, whether you're in a program or not, are things that you can do. You can just start journaling, start focusing on the way you want your life to be instead of,
Mhm.
maybe the way it is right now that you don't love, because you are creating so much of your life with how you think about it. And that one thing transformed, I would say, literally everything about my life.
Mhm. Yeah, and I agree. I definitely can see that. And working with clients, for example, who maybe have been abused even and had
Yeah.
really tough, stories, etc. But
Yeah.
yet that may have happened to them and they continue to abuse themselves by telling
Yes.
that story, or maybe holding on to it so tightly that they're not able to
Yeah.
forgive and to step
Yes.
into the next thing that God has for them. And so I
Yeah.
agree that whole thing about our thoughts, that is just such a huge nugget. It's a great place to start for everyone
It's a
that listens.
great starting place. And I used to always say, like, I was holding on to my story. I didn't know there was an option to not hold on to it because it was
Yeah,
true, quote unquote.
exactly.
It
Hmm.
happened. But I was holding on to it so tight and it's like a porcupine. Well,
Yes.
I'm the one holding it. It's puncturing me. It's making me
Hmm.
miserable. It's keeping
Right.
me stuck. It's not punishing the person who did something to me. They're
That's
off
right.
living their life.
Hmm.
Their emotional life comes from their thoughts.
That's
And
right.
so I realized, like, oh, I'm just it's like you say, I'm punishing myself, abusing myself with this. And I
Hmm.
just didn't want to do that anymore. And I think if you're willing to let go of that and let God do a work in you, let Him heal those parts of you that feel hurt and that feel abandoned, and see His goodness in all of it.
Yeah, that's true. Because we know, like Romans 8:28, it all works out for
It
our good
does.
and His glory in some
That's
way.
right.
That can be a hard pill to swallow in some people's stories, and I
Yeah, it
recognize
was
that.
for me for a long time.
Yeah,
And I'm so
same.
patient with my clients when they don't. I'm like,
That's
look,
right.
you don't have to
Yep.
let go of it. You can
Yep.
hold on to it for
Mhm.
as long as seems necessary.
Yep.
But
True.
think through that, because then you're the one who continues to be hurt by it. And what I find is that when women realize how much power they have over
Mhm.
how they're experiencing their life, they're so willing to let go of things like that.
That's right. It gives them a little taste of what it might be like to start letting
Yes,
go, just to loosen it. I think the language I use is like loosen it if you can't let go. Just loosen the hold on it and just
that's
see
right.
if you can get to the point that it's in your hand and you're looking at it. And then,
Yes.
it's gradually going to not be there. But it takes time for some with difficult stories for sure. Well, this has been amazing. I always love conversations with you, and I just am so happy that you've been able to be with us today. And I just want to make sure you have opportunity. If there's anything else you would like to share before we close, just anything, any
Well,
area.
I just want to, just speak a word of life and hope to your people. Because again, I came from a difficult past. I decided this was a few years ago, and you probably remember this because this was probably the third or fourth year that we had life mentoring school. I decided to practice the thought, everywhere I look, I see miracles. And I
Mhm.
wrote it down and practiced it for a solid year. And what happens after a few days, a few weeks, a month, a few months of practicing that thought, what happens is everywhere you look, you see miracles.
That's right.
And my life started to make a big shift and started to feel so magical and so full of wonder. And it shifted something in me that's hard to describe. So as we, are heading into a new year, pick a sentence, pick a thought
Mhm.
that gives you life, that inspires you, and just see what happens. Just write it down every day. Just practice it every day. Just think about it every day and just see what happens. I promise you, the power of the mind that God has given you is way more than we give it credit for. And just the power of one sentence to shift your whole entire year. I just experienced it firsthand, and I love when I see other people willing to do that. So,
Yes, I agree. It's beautiful to see other people get to walk in that kind of beauty and freedom that you've
yes,
experienced yourself. It's so true. Well, I really appreciate all the wisdom, all the beautiful things you've shared with us today.
I did.
And remember, if you want to reach out or work with Edie, you can look in the show notes. It'll be all there for you. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. What an honor. I appreciate